Sacramento sells the image of California's capital wrapped in golden light, farm-to-fork restaurants, historic streets, river views, government buildings, and political power. But behind that polished civic face, along riverbanks, under freeways, inside tents, cars, and hidden camps, another Sacramento is breaking down in plain sight where people sleep only miles from the rooms, where laws are written about their survival. This is Sacramento in 2026, a city caught between symbolism and reality. It is the capital of the richest state in America, the place where California debates housing, poverty, crime, mental health, addiction, budgets, and homelessness. It is where leaders sign bills, hold press conferences, promise reform, and speak about human dignity. But outside the official chambers, thousands of people are still living without homes. They're not far away. They are along the American River Parkway. They are near industrial corridors. They are in vehicles parked on side streets. They are behind shopping centers, near vacant lots, in makeshift shelters, and in places most residents pass without slowing down. Some are visible in tents. Others are hidden in cars. Some are newly homeless. Others have survived years of displacement, camp cleanups, shelter wait lists, and broken promises. Sacramento's crisis is not only about poverty, it is about rising rent, insufficient housing, river encampments, fentanyl, mental illness, fire danger, environmental damage, public safety fears, political frustration, and a homelessness system under pressure from every side. And the contradiction is impossible to ignore. The city, where California writes housing policy, is still struggling to house its own people. Stay with this story until the end, because Sacramento's homeless crisis is not a simple story of people camping by the river. It is a story of a capital city forced to confront the human cost of a housing system that leaves too many people outside, even as officials claim progress. This is Sacramento's homeless crisis in 2026. 1. The numbers behind the capital's crisis. In January 2026, Sacramento County conducted its point-in-time count, a one-night snapshot of people experiencing homelessness. The results were alarming. The count estimated 7,458 people experiencing homelessness across Sacramento County, a 13% increase from the previous count 2 years earlier. Of those, 3,253 people were living in shelters or transitional housing, while 4,205 people were unsheltered, living outdoors, in vehicles, or in other places not meant for human habitation. That means more than half of the people counted were still outside. At the same time, the data showed signs of investment. Shelter and transitional housing numbers rose by 582 people, a 22% increase compared with 2024. Sacramento added hundreds of emergency shelter and transitional housing beds. The region also reported more permanent housing opportunities, and more people moved into permanent housing through the homeless response system. So the picture is complicated. More people are getting connected to shelter. More beds exist than before. Outreach is reaching more people. Permanent housing placements are happening. The system is doing more than it once did, but homelessness is still increasing. That is the painful contradiction at the center of Sacramento in 2026. The system is expanding, but the crisis is expanding too. More people are coming in than the system can move out. Shelter alone is not enough. A bed for tonight does not solve the rent bill, the eviction record, the addiction, the trauma, the lack of income, the broken family support, or the shortage of affordable homes. The point-in-time count is also only a snapshot. It does not capture every person sleeping on a couch. It does not fully show every family doubled up in overcrowded apartments. It does not count every person moving between motels, cars, friends' floors, and unsafe spaces. It does not measure everyone who becomes homeless after January. So when Sacramento counts 7,458 people, the real crisis is likely broader. Behind every number is a person carrying a story. A woman who lost housing after a hospital stay. A veteran who ran out of couch space. A father living in his car so his children can stay with relatives. A senior whose rent rose faster than Social Security. A young person leaving an unsafe home. A man who once worked construction, now living near the river with swollen feet and no stable place to recover. Sacramento is not dealing with one crisis. It is dealing with thousands of individual collapses gathered into one regional emergency. Two river camps and the American River Parkway. For many people outside Sacramento, the American River Parkway sounds peaceful. It brings to mind trails, trees, cyclists, families, wildlife, water, and quiet spaces where city life slows down. But for years, the Parkway has also been one of the most visible battlegrounds in Sacramento's homelessness crisis. Along parts of the river corridor, encampments have appeared and disappeared, shifted and returned, grown and been cleared. Some camps are small and hidden. Others have become large enough to raise major concerns about fire, trash, sanitation, environmental damage, public safety, and flood risk. To housed residents, river camps can feel like evidence that the city has lost control. People worry about open flames, needles, stolen property, human waste, blocked trails, and threats to wildlife. Environmental groups warn that the river corridor cannot absorb unlimited camping without damage. Families who once used the parkway for recreation may avoid certain areas out of fear. Those concerns are real. But for people living in the camps, the story is different. A river camp may be unsafe, but it may also be the only place left. It may offer trees for shade, distance from harassment, room for belongings, and a small community of people who watch out for one another. A person living there may know the camp is not a home, but still fear losing the only stability they have. This is the cruel contradiction. A tent by the river is not a solution, but removing the tent without housing is not a solution either. When officials clear a camp, the immediate area may look cleaner. Trails may reopen, trash may be removed, residents may feel relief. But the people who live there do not disappear. They move to another stretch of land, another roadside, another vacant lot, another neighborhood, another hidden place. And each move can break fragile connections. A person may lose documents, medication, a phone charger, a blanket, a tent, contact with an outreach worker, trust in the system. The cleanup may restore a public space, but it can also reset someone's survival to zero. This is why Sacramento's river camps are more than a local nuisance. They are a symbol of a system that has not built enough places for people to go. Three, rising rent and the pressure behind the tents. Homelessness rarely begins at the river. It begins in apartments, paychecks, hospital bills, court notices, family arguments, job losses, and rent increases. It begins when someone's income no longer matches the price of staying housed. In Sacramento County, the affordable housing pressure is severe. Housing advocates reported that 86% of extremely low-income households in the county are paying more than half of their income toward housing costs. More than 50,000 low-income renter households do not have access to an affordable home. Renters need to earn more than $34 an hour to afford the average monthly asking rent for a two-bedroom apartment. For many people, that math is impossible. A worker making minimum wage cannot simply budget their way into a $1,803 apartment. A senior on a fixed income cannot negotiate with a market that keeps rising. A single mother cannot stretch one paycheck to cover rent, food, gas, childcare, phone bills, school supplies, and emergencies. A man recovering from injury cannot return to stability if one lost month becomes an eviction. And once eviction enters the picture, the road back gets harder. Landlords may reject applicants with poor credit, past evictions, unstable income, or criminal records. Deposits can be impossible. Application fees add up. Waiting lists stretch. Affordable units are scarce. People without stable addresses, phones, transportation, or internet access can miss appointments before they even know they exist. That is how people fall from housing into homelessness. Not always because they stopped trying, sometimes because trying was no longer enough. Sacramento's growth has created opportunity for some and pressure for others. The city has drawn new residents, new development, and new investment. But when wages, benefits, and housing supply fail to match the cost of living, the people at the bottom are squeezed until they fall. The tents by the river are not the beginning of the crisis. They are the visible end of it. 4. The capital city contradiction. Sacramento holds a unique place in California's homelessness debate. This is not just another city asking the state for help. This is the state capital. Lawmakers work here, lobbyists work here, agencies work here, budgets are debated here. Bills about housing, homelessness, drug treatment, mental health, rent, zoning, and encampments pass through this city. That makes Sacramento's visible homelessness feel especially symbolic. When a person sleeps outside near the capital of California, it raises a painful question. If the people closest to power are still outside, what does that say about the system? California has spent billions on homelessness and housing programs over the years. Cities and counties have opened shelters, created safe parking sites, funded outreach, expanded behavioral health programs, and cleared encampments. Sacramento has added shelter beds and launched new plans for unsheltered homelessness. The city has talked about cost effectiveness, accountability, safe camping, and more options across different districts. But the public is growing impatient. Some residents say they are tired of tents, trash, fires, and unsafe conditions. Some business owners say homelessness has hurt commerce and made customers afraid. Some families say parks and trails no longer feel safe. Some property owners say the city and county are too slow. Some advocates say enforcement is moving faster than housing. Some unhoused people say every cleanup feels like punishment for being poor. This is where the debate becomes explosive. Officials say they are trying to balance compassion and public safety. Advocates warn that camping bans can criminalize survival when shelter and housing are insufficient. Residents demand action because they feel abandoned too. Unhoused people are caught in the middle, often with the least power and the most to lose. In 2026, Sacramento County expanded its camping ban to include private property under certain conditions, giving law enforcement more authority to clear encampments when owners are absent, unreachable, or unwilling to act. Supporters said the ordinance was needed because camps had moved on to vacant lots and business properties after enforcement increased on public land. Critics argued it would deepen criminalization and make it harder for people to get housing if fines or citations followed them. That debate is not just legal, it is moral. If camping is illegal on public land, illegal on parkway land, illegal near critical infrastructure, and increasingly illegal on private property, where does a person with no home legally exist? 5. Fentanyl and the crisis beneath the crisis. Sacramento's homelessness crisis is deeply connected to addiction, but addiction is not the whole story. Fentanyl has changed street survival across California. It is cheap, powerful, unpredictable, and deadly. In Sacramento County, fentanyl related deaths reached horrifying levels in 2023, averaging more than one death a day. Provisional data showed about 280 fentanyl related deaths in 2024, down by roughly 31% from 2023. In the first 4 months of 2025, Sacramento County reported 76 fentanyl related deaths, compared with 112 during the same period the year before. That decline matters. It means prevention, Narcan distribution, public health work, outreach, education, and community intervention may be saving lives, but 280 deaths in 1 year is still a disaster. And for people living outside, the risk is especially sharp. Substance use in encampments does not always look like the stereotype people imagine. Some people use because they are addicted. Some use because they are in physical pain. Some use because trauma is eating them alive. Some use because the street is cold, dangerous, and impossible to endure sober. Some started with prescription medication years ago and fell into a supply that became deadlier over time. Fentanyl changes the timeline of death. A person can be alive 1 minute and not breathing the next. An overdose can happen inside a tent, behind a dumpster, in a bathroom, by a trail, in a vehicle, or in a hidden camp where no one finds them in time. A friend may have Narcan and save them, or the friend may also be using, or nobody may be there. The drug supply is unpredictable. People may not know what they are taking. Pills may be fake, powder may be mixed, meth may be contaminated. A dose that did not kill yesterday can kill today. And recovery is much harder without housing. How does someone attend treatment when they have no transportation? How do they keep medication safe when their tent can be swept? How do they make appointments when their phone is stolen or dead? How do they detox while sleeping outside? How do they avoid relapse when the camp around them is full of pain? People say, why don't they just stop? But stopping requires more than willpower. It requires a place to stabilize, medical support, counseling, medication, trust, safety, and time. On the street, every survival stress pulls people back toward the same thing that is killing them. This is the crisis beneath the crisis. Housing instability feeds addiction. Addiction feeds homelessness. Trauma feeds both. And without treatment tied to housing, the cycle keeps taking lives. 6. The families people do not see. Not everyone experiencing homelessness in Sacramento is living in a tent. Some are families sleeping in vehicles. Some are children staying in motels. Some are parents doubled up with relatives. Some are teenagers couch surfing. Some are seniors hiding in plain sight. Some are workers who still have jobs but not homes. The public sees camps because camps are visible. But hidden homelessness can be just as devastating. A child sleeping in a car may not look homeless when they arrive at school. A parent may keep clothes folded neatly in a trunk and pretend things are under control. A young adult may stay with friends until they become unwanted. A senior may sleep in a vehicle near a store because it feels safer than the river. A family may rotate between relatives until everyone's patience runs out. The emotional toll is enormous. Children learn instability before they learn how to name it. Parents carry shame and fear. A mother may avoid asking for help because she worries child welfare will get involved. A father may work during the day and sleep in the car at night, trying to convince himself it is temporary. A teenager may hide everything from classmates, laughing in the hallway while silently wondering where they will sleep. Homelessness steals more than housing. It steals normal life. A kitchen, a shower, a locked door, a quiet place to study, a bed that belongs to you, a place for medication, a place to cry privately, a place where children can be loud without someone threatening to kick the family out. In Sacramento's 2026 data, more people were using shelter and transitional housing than before. That is a positive sign. But the county also had more than 4,000 people unsheltered. And when the system remains under pressure, families can still fall through gaps. A shelter bed matters, a hotel voucher matters, a caseworker matters, but families need permanent stability, not just emergency movement. Because every night without a home teaches a child that safety can disappear. 7. Public safety, fire, water, and environmental fear. Sacramento's river camps create environmental and safety fears that are difficult to ignore. The American River Parkway is not just land, it is a natural corridor, a public space, a recreation area, a wildlife habitat, and a floodplain. Encampments can bring trash, waste, fires, cut vegetation, damaged land, and hazardous materials. During dry seasons, fire risk becomes a major concern. During storms, flood risk becomes dangerous for people living too close to water. Residents and environmental advocates have demanded action for years. They argue that allowing camps to expand along the river harms both the environment and the people living there. They say the parkway was never meant to become an unmanaged survival zone. They are not wrong to worry, but the deeper question remains, why are people living there in the first place? No one dreams of growing up to live under a tarp by a river. No one chooses flooded ground, smoke, danger, disease, and uncertainty as a first option. Camps emerge when every other system fails or becomes inaccessible. This is the part public debate often misses. Environmental protection and human survival should not be enemies. A city should be able to protect the river and house the people living beside it. It should be able to restore public land without simply pushing human beings into another unsafe place. It should be able to say the parkway is not a home while still offering actual homes. Without that second part, enforcement becomes a loop. Clear the river, camps move. Clear the next site, camps move again. Residents get angry, advocates sue, officials announce plans. People remain outside. Trash returns, fire risk returns. The public loses faith. That cycle is what makes Sacramento feel like a capital at breaking point. 8. Rumors, distrust, and the politics of homelessness money. Whenever homelessness continues after years of spending, rumors begin to grow. In Sacramento, some residents ask why billions have been spent statewide while the streets still look broken. Some people claim homelessness has become an industry, with money flowing through contracts, consultants, nonprofits, emergency shelters, motel programs, cleanup crews, security firms, and political campaigns. Others argue that the system is not corrupt, just overwhelmed by the scale of California's housing crisis. Still others believe both things can be true at once, that many workers are sincere, but the structure itself rewards temporary management more than permanent solutions. There is no verified proof of a single hidden conspiracy controlling Sacramento's homelessness response, but the suspicion itself says something important. People do not trust what they cannot see. Taxpayers want to know where the money goes. Residents want to know why encampments return. Advocates want to know why enforcement expands before housing. Unhoused people want to know why they are offered referrals that never become keys. Shelter workers want resources. Neighborhoods want safety. Politicians want measurable progress. Everyone wants accountability, but not everyone agrees on what accountability means. To some, accountability means clearing camps faster. To others, accountability means proving people were offered real housing before being displaced. To some, accountability means tracking every dollar. To others, accountability means tracking every person moved from a tent into a permanent home. The danger is that Sacramento becomes trapped between anger and bureaucracy. The city can produce dashboards, plans, ordinances, and press conferences while people outside continue living hour by hour. The more complex the system becomes, the easier it is for ordinary residents to believe someone must be benefiting from the failure. Whether that belief is fair or not, trust is now part of the crisis. Without trust, every shelter plan becomes suspicious. Every camp cleanup becomes political theater. Every new ordinance becomes a weapon. Every nonprofit contract becomes a target. Every promise sounds like a delay. And while people argue, the river camps remain. 9. What Sacramento must confront. Sacramento does not lack awareness. It lacks enough exits. It needs more affordable housing, more deeply affordable housing, more permanent, supportive housing, more treatment beds, more low barrier shelter, more safe parking, more safe camping with sanitation and services where appropriate, more prevention before eviction, more help for families, more mental health care, more transparency, more coordination between the city and county, more accountability for outcomes, not just announcements. But above all, Sacramento needs to admit that shelter expansion and enforcement will not be enough if people cannot move into permanent housing. A shelter bed can save a life tonight, but a permanent home rebuilds a life tomorrow. Safe camping can reduce immediate harm, but it is still not housing. A cleanup can restore a public space, but it does not end homelessness. A citation can move someone, but it does not treat addiction. A press conference can show concern, but it cannot replace a key in a door. The crisis is layered, so the solution must be layered. Housing, treatment, prevention, outreach, sanitation, public safety, environmental protection, and transparency all have to work together. Sacramento is the capital of California. That means it has a chance to model something different, not just more enforcement, not just more temporary shelter, not just more arguments between officials and advocates, but a system that can say clearly, here is how many people are outside. Here is where they are being offered shelter. Here is how many became permanently housed. Here is how long it took. Here is how many returned to homelessness. Here is where the money went, and here is what failed. Because people are tired of vague promises. They want proof, and people outside need more than proof. They need a path. Final message. As evening falls over Sacramento, the city becomes two places at once. One Sacramento glows with restaurants, government buildings, state offices, and riverfront beauty. People walk near the Capitol, talk politics over dinner, and pass through a city that looks calm from a distance. The other Sacramento is waking into survival. Someone is checking whether their tent will be swept. Someone is moving belongings away from the river before rain. Someone is using fentanyl because the pain is louder than fear. Someone is calling 211 and hoping for a real answer. Someone is sitting in a car with children asleep in the back. Someone is watching the Capitol lights and wondering how a place with so much power can leave so many people outside. These people are not statistics. They are not scenery. They are not policy problems to be moved from one map point to another. They are human beings. Sacramento can do better. It has to do better. Not because the camps are ugly, not because the river trails need to look clean, not because businesses are angry, but because no capital city should accept human beings living and dying outside while laws about housing are written just down the road. The measure of Sacramento's future will not be how fast it clears a camp. It will be whether the person removed from that camp ends up housed, treated, safe, and stable. That is the only outcome that matters. If this story moved you, tell us in the comments, what should Sacramento do first? Build more affordable housing, expand shelter, create safer camping alternatives, protect the American River, increase addiction treatment, or demand more transparency from every dollar spent? If stories like this matter to you, please like this video, share your thoughts, and subscribe for more human-centered documentaries about the lives America too often overlooks. May every person sleeping near the river find safety tonight. May every family living in a car find a door that locks. May every person battling fentanyl find one more chance to live. May every outreach worker have the resources they need. May every policy written in California's capital remember the people outside its windows. And may Sacramento be measured not by the beauty of its riverfront or the power of its buildings, but by how many people it finally brings home.